More or less. I've got some sick, neck pain.
How about lower back?
The
No.
recording is
buy
on.
one,
She
you're like, you're
lists
not in
it,
this
but
one,
she
it's the
doesn't
next
say
one.
I'll start with that
People
first.
really know things. I don't know. That was nice of them to do.
I was excited.
Yeah, like Ingrid is a friend of mine. She's a bunch of people.
Declarative sentences. Because it was kind of like,
That's fun. I
I
gave,
think we can
I
do
gave a
this
talk
better. I'm gonna
for the
ask
women
her.
of the university or something. At Christmas.
What we talked about, I
And
mean,
they-
not by page.
Oh,
by
yeah,
page,
they-
and say,
that's
here's-
why
here's
her
something
husband
that's
was the one who
missing, here's
wrote it.
something that we need
So that
to-
was nice, because I had the full one. I talked to stuff. That's what we got.
See,
I
no
just
signed
wanted you to
contract.
know,
with
Cliff,
the
that
artist
the
at the time. I think
recording
you
is
have to
going.
Cliff.
stay. Yes.
The recording is going.
Okay, are we on? Is it time? Oh my
Yes.
God, we are late. I beg your pardon. Beg your pardon. I'd like to call the May meeting of the City Arts Committee to order. We have a very important announcement. We have a new ex officio official.
Nice. Thanks
Tim.
for joining us.
Welcome
Thank
aboard.
you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
It took a lot of courage and
Come back.
Stupidity.
maybe.
And Tim does do windows,
Yeah.
because I saw him polishing the obelisks in the wall.
That's true.
Thank
We
you.
have photo documentation.
Wasn't it in the Cape Gazette?
I think it was.
It was, and he, he's been a really great volunteer and he's been very helpful to me and I think the whole committee in terms of helping us stay on course. And that's very much appreciated. So we appreciate all you do
Glad
and
to be
we can't wait to see you do more.
We can't wait to see you do more.
I also drill holes in concrete pads.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm rounding out my skill set.
Okay, so the first order of business is the approval of the minutes. Now, Janet and I had a discussion about these minutes. My thought was that it was nice to see the subjects, but we were kind of missing declarative sentences about what was said and exposed and talked about. And I was wondering if we could put off addressing the minutes or accepting them at this particular meeting and ask Jackie to go back and go through that and dig out a little more detail. And did you talk to her about that?
She's on. So if you can just allow Jackie to talk.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh,
Okay.
Jackie,
Hi, good afternoon.
it was a lot to get through.
Okay,
So
Why don't
Cliff, do you
pose
want
the
to,
question?
do you want to ask her a question or? do you
Okay,
want-
well, my question was, as we looked at these minutes, and there are a lot of bullet points that just throw out facts or topics.
okay,
I was wondering if we could rephrase some of this into more of a declarative sentence, subject, predicate. And so we could actually have some sort of a better record of what was actually said about the subjects. And I know that as we went through this thing, I was calling out the page numbers on this application over and over again so that you would be able to follow along which particular questions in the application that we were addressing at the moment. And that is pretty useful, I think, if you're going to go back and look at how we address the application. So I was wondering if we might want to take another shot at getting a little more detail in here, and we would just sort of put off accepting the minutes as they are. I really feel like if this becomes something we will actually want to refer to, we don't really have the information in there that we might need.
Okay, so you would want me to list, as you were talking, you want me to list the page numbers you referred to?
And
And instead of the bullet points, do you want me to say what each person said? Is that what you
I
mean?
think that would be useful, and also to say, I mean, there's still going to be corrections, because there's some things that aren't quite accurate within here. But like when you have just a semicolon, it said the pergola area will heighten the drama, and then semicolon. I think that I would like to know that maybe Tony said that, and that this was made in defense of the location
What page in the
discussion.
minutes are you referring to?
Oh, that's on page 7. But I think that we, it just, and it's not one particular piece, Tony. It's like we're just sort of listing subjects that were talked about, but we're not saying what was.
Well, I think underneath it does, and bullet points are acceptable in the minutes. And I mean, my interpretation of it was that as you were going through the application and she was writing what was said, and there wasn't a lot of detail, it was like a statement and it was kind of quick. So that's, my interpretation, but.
Well, I mean, like there's one statement in here that says, reasons why the site was chosen, and it just lists the need for the park to be utilized. Well, that's not really
And I think that-
accurate. That's not really what
Yeah,
was said or what.
it was kind of like a
Yeah.
synopsis by bullet points. And I think, what do you think, Jackie? Would that be too hard for you to go back and try and give us another, maybe go down one more level of detail?
No, not at all. I guess what I was doing was with the bullet points, just summarizing everything. But if you want it in more detail, that's no problem. I can go back and do that.
Denise?
I have a correction. It says after discussion, Ms. Emery withdrew her motion in order to meet with AIB to rewrite the application. I never said the words, I withdraw my motion.
Okay,
I
okay.
said I would amend it and work with Heidi or combine our things, but I never said.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's not quite accurate, but I'm thinking maybe if we get a more detailed thing, then we'll do additions to them and corrections to the minutes after the new version comes back to us next month.
Especially because there was a lot of information, a lot that went on. And I think Clip's point is well taken. I think we need to be accurate and make sure that these statements really capture what was said or the intent of what was said, so that it doesn't mislead people. 'Cause you don't want somebody to look at these minutes and say, hey, somebody said the park needs to be utilized, and that's why the sculpture, well, that's not really what was said. So I think we need to try to be as accurate as possible. And, I think,
This is a historical record. It has to be accurate.
yes, and there's an awful lot there that Jackie had to record. And of course, it's all recorded anyway, but,
Yeah.
so I agree, and I would move that we postpone the acceptance of the minutes until we work on them and add and clarify some things in more detail.
Excuse me, may I speak up at this moment, please? I did attend a meeting, of course, and I do want to remind you all that technically your minutes only have to reflect your motions and the results of the motions. So I don't know what your tradition is here, your practice is, but as far as the technicality of what your minutes need to reflect, it is really about the motions and the actions that you take. Thank you.
Okay. Sticking with what Barry said, should we do that?
Do we want to make any corrections, even though this has some inaccuracies or just not a full picture? But there was one thing, is it working? There's one statement that I made. Tony asked me a question and I did not answer him correctly because at the time I just like remembered the correct situation later. Do you want me to put
Well,
that in as a correction now or wait?
You know,
until-
would it be helpful, Jackie, if everybody submitted to you the corrections that they see that needed to be? And you could have that with your next draft and then we'll review it all together at the next meeting?
That'll be fine. And I'll go back and listen to the meeting again. And
So
add in-
so Denise, what you just said, we're going to write it down and we're going to send it to Jackie and anything else that you can see, Tony, anything that you see that you think is inaccurate. And because it was
There's a lot.
it was a lot going on.
I would just caution that we can't change the content of what was actually said during the meeting. The meeting is
No.
recorded,
No,
so.
no one's asking. I think what she wants to do is going to be an addition, not a
I'm
correction.
just making a comment.
Okay.
I'm cautioning that you can't change the content of the discussion that happened a month ago.
Correct. All in agreement there? Anybody? Okay, so shall we move on to the exhibition updates?
Cliff, so you're gonna send me an email with what everybody wanted and then
I
I'll
would say,
go and
yeah,
send
I would say everybody should have anything that they want to, anything that they notice that needs a correction from what they remember, send that in to Jackie so she can review that while she's redoing the notes.
If you
And
can
then,
send it to me, I can send it directly to Jackie in one email. That would probably be easier for Jackie.
and then we'll have them in within the next week. And then that gives Jackie 3 weeks to review the tape, check the
Okay.
notes, and check with the information that she's going to receive from everybody. Okay,
All right, and then we'll review again the next meeting.
correct.
Okay, all right.
Good. Thank you very much. I liked it better when I could see it, but. All right, old business exhibition updates, Vivian Collins. So. That would be you, Heidi.
We talked about this last time, so we had a great, we put it up, it went up, it was great. We had lots of people come and help, which was very helpful. And there was a lot that needed to happen on site, so we did those things because there was a lot of drilling and a lot of in a ladder, and I'm glad that went well. And Vivian was great. She
Right.
helped and little Spitfire. And so that was, and we do thank Canal Front for letting her and her husband stay there. And yeah, it went well.
Okay, I think that they look quite different now that the trees have filled in behind them. If you haven't seen them, you should go over.
And I added a reel to our Instagram today when I went all 3 spots and did looped it together.
Yeah.
It's
and
nice
so,
with music.
yeah.
Chris King had a nice little video
Yeah.
when she was come on down, and then I've had a couple of good interviews over there, but I think that one's the more I see it, the more I like that one.
Yeah.
So
And that one is for sale, just so you know. She did tell me that it's for sale if anybody wants.
Which one?
Squirts.
the squirts.
There is.
We
I don't
can,
know.
you
We
can
can-
contact her if you want to. All right. Rose's install.
Okay, that was me. So when we last met, Rose had just gotten into town with her art and her dad, and they stayed at our place. So we installed on Thursday, whatever date that was, 28th maybe. So we had some hiccups in the installation process. It was a little bit disorganized, and we didn't have as many people show up to help with the heavy lifting as we thought we had. But I want to give a shout out to Chuck, who's here, and Chuck Young, and also Jim Colbert, who was my neighbor that I called and said, please come help us. Because we did need some extra muscle. It was a long install. We did the obelisks. We started the obelisks, and then we switched to the spheres, and then we switched back to the obelisk. And Tim Ritzert helped with polishing the obelisks. He was up on a ladder.
He helped lift them up there too. I saw the video.
It was great. It was great. It was a long day, and it was so cold.
Yes.
It was
Ridiculous.
terrible.
I was wearing my heaviest buffalo coat. So the one thing that is something we need to address, and we've talked to Rose and also to Karen, the spheres are a little bit askew, and we may be going back in to try to make them more plumb. It's going to take it's going to take some manpower and, just a little bit of time, but I think we'll do that soon.
We could do that from the inside of them, right?
Yeah, it's, she sent me directions, so
Okay.
just, we'll talk about that,
Hmm.
but I don't think any of us are perfectly pleased with the spheres, because they're just a little bit off.
Yeah, I was just by there today and I saw that.
Yeah, it's.
So do you rearrange them when you go by?
I do.
And move on? I do
Every
too.
time I'm there, like.
I think
every
I want
day.
her up the
I'm
front
either-
today and I
I'm
spin them
either
around.
cleaning,
Chuck,
I go
you
over
can
with-
you probably put them back the way you want them every single day
Yeah, you're right across the
in your
street.
front
so
yard.
I go over, and she left an alcohol solution that I can clean the obelisks with. So I go over with like a mop handle and do that. You went over with a leaf blower after the
After the big
nor'easter.
storm, they
So
look terrible.
we're all on maintenance with these things.
And she says, we're gonna mess that way, saying, I got this idea.
It was a very good idea.
Well, and
But
I think we could anchor them with like tent inside, like anchor the
Yeah, she's got there's like a
weight. in there.
umbrella
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
base inside, and then stones around it. So it really has to be kind of dismantled.
Oh.
you have to
put
take the
back
whole thing
together.
Let
apart,
me
right?
know
We
when
have
that's
to-
happening.
yeah, it's a
was
little
that,
bit of a-
may I ask you, Nancy, did that move because of the
No,
storm?
it
Dur-
moved. It was a very long day, and by the end of the day, it was just the three of us.
Yeah, yeah.
She and her dad and I, and I think Chuck had left by then. I think everybody was just like, oh, we really would have had to take it apart
I
and
see.
start
So it was
over
from the very
again.
beginning.
And
Well-
she said that she doesn't mind a little bit of a
Right.
list, especially if it's windy, but what's happening is the spheres are sort of
Yeah,
all falling to one side, so you have to, manually move it to see the images.
when I
Um,
asked her, I asked her if she's coming back to fix that.
Mhm.
And she all said, well, I think they look pretty good askew, So
Yeah.
I think that is that's we'll have to schedule that, and that's
Yeah,
gonna be
it's
some
gonna,
serious
it's
work.
gonna be a full day, I
Um,
think.
Maybe we can do that before Juneteenth
I want to do it before Juneteenth.
celebration. So
So
pick a date.
that's-
Well, and like that many sculptures in one day is probably too much.
well, it's
and-
just
and the
two-
other-
it's just
I
the-
know,
the
but I mean,
spe-
like,
yeah.
doing all of them
I
in one
think-
day is too
I
exhausting.
think we could do both of them in one day.
No, but I mean, when she came, obviously, we
I
ran
see
out of
what you mean.
steam.
Yeah.
And so
oh,
then we
totally
couldn't
ran
be,
out of steam. We're
yeah.
like huddling. If we
so,
should have had a bonfire or something. It was so cold. Everybody was
So Nancy,
just exhausted. Yes.
you have to pick a day.
Okay, I will pick a day. I will pick a day because I'm going to be away for a little bit in June, so I
So
will,
we're-
I'll work on it. I don't have to pick
She
a day
can't
right.
pick a day right
I
now,
can't pick a
that's
day
what
right
she's
this
saying.
minute.
Okay, so you're thinking mid-June? Yeah, it should be
Early
mid.
Juneteenth, it has to
early
be
June.
before.
Yeah, I'm leaving
Juneteenth
from
is
the 10th
18th.
to
Well, the
Yeah.
I'll be
Juneteenth
gone
celebration is
from
gonna be the
10th to
25th.
17th. So
Okay.
before the 10th
right.
No,
or
after
after the 17th.
17th.
Okay,
Right, that's
all right, I'll do it.
Celebration is the 25th.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. they will be perfect by then
Rearrange
because
my brain.
my OCD will
Well, we
not
also
allow
need to
it.
polish this,
Yeah.
we need to clean them.
Yeah.
Great,
do both of those things.
good.
And just to follow up with those works, Rose sent me some notes for any kind of docent
good.
situation. I've got to talk to her about this because It's
We're
not
going to
real-
talk to docents about docents in just a minute. So you want to
Okay,
hold on till we
I'll
get
hold on
there.
to that then. All right. So I think, is that all I got to say about that? Yeah, thank you to Chuck. Thank you to my neighbor, Jim Colbert. And thank you to me for hosting. Oh, and Billy came over, my husband came over with a piece of PVC pipe, which we also used in the installation. So it's all good. All hands on deck. All right. that's all I got.
Okay, and then before Letha, we did have Karen. Karen came down from New York and she looked at it and she called her the same thing, agreed with you. Then Lisa Wilson came down, and Barry was conveniently out of town. So I took that one. That install went pretty well until she found out a couple of her screws had been stripped and, you know. So I think what we're learning is like any install is going to take 2 trips to the Home Depot or Ace Hardware. And the heavy duty part went really well. And that was first thing in the morning. And Handy Andy, we decided rather than break our backs, because this was heavy Corten steel, we hired these guys to come down and help us with the heavy lifting of pulling this out of the van. It was very well organized in that the Friends of Canal Front Park had us, you know, ready to go and drive in right next door. And these guys were on time, and within an hour, pieces had been pulled out, stood up, woven together, and assembled so they weren't going to fall down. And in discussing the bill, Andy decided he was going to volunteer and donate his time and that work to the city. So we're going to get him a nice thank you letter, and we have a good picture of the guys that did it. And because we were so organized, I mean, he'd planned on 3 hours and we got them out of there in an hour. That's another thing that happened, is that we were so, because we were organized and it went down pretty quickly. I think it was easier for him to give up an hour of the time than he would have for 3 of them. So that was really an unexpected pleasure. Each one of these people has had a television interview, and I also think Paige has done an amazing job. And Lisa, I don't know whether I sent it to everybody. Did you see that? She did a wonderful job explaining the artwork and the technicality of what she's trying to do and the different mediums and mixing them together and mixing 2 elements, you know, to create a place for people to, you know, explore the ideas of the assemblage of the photographs and the quartet. I think that was about 2 minutes. And I think that turned into be a pretty much a perfect amount of docent time. And I think that I don't think we need to get too crazy when we're going to do this. We're moving into docent training day. I think that we decided a couple meetings ago that the captains for each operation were going to be the docents to do the speak about the artwork on the chosen day. So I think that you're ready to do that. Heidi, you're ready to do that. Barry's in training.
Watch Pages.
I'm sure you pick a day that I'm here.
Well, the question is going to be, what day do we want to, once we do that and we do it and we've got our individual training done, or that we've studied and looked at the videos and we're ready to go, what are we going to do with that?
Are we gonna walk them around, or are they gonna walk around, or can we have a night that we say this is like the opening of our, that was something Letha had asked, like, is there a name for the exhibition, or is there like, or do we have a title for the whole thing? And she's like, what do I put this on my resume as? So if we had like an art walk,
Yeah,
then we could.
Yeah.
we have the art walk map.
Yeah, but we could.
he
have a-
called it Art in the Park, which was nice.
Mhm.
It's,
The question is gonna be, how do we pick the date, pick the time and promote it? If we're gonna promote it.
We have to promote it.
Yeah.
We'll have to promote it and,
Maybe, what about with, no, I feel like if they're coming to the farmer's market, they're coming to the farmer's market, but what would be a time when people would be around?
I think there was a question was like, do we want to try and do like a Friday afternoon or Friday evening? We were not successful last time then we did this. It was,
Nobody
we
came.
did.
and we did it Sunday afternoon or Sunday morning or something. I don't know, it was a bad time. So I think we just try another time and I don't know whether we have a lot of money to promote it.
Well, is there a time, since Tony has a gallery, is there a time that would be helpful for you or helpful for the town? That would be in coordination with your gallery having something, or do you think that's hurtful?
Well, we have an opening on June 4th, which is a Saturday,
Mhm.
from 5 until 6:30.
When's
New exhibition.
When's the next one after that?
July.
I don't have it in my head, Cliff.
But you sent us dates.
Yeah,
I don't think we can be ready by June 4th.
Do you think that that would be helpful, or do you think it would be, give them just something else to do and wouldn't be that helpful?
I mean, you could have.
I mean, you can put us on the
Yeah.
route.
Mhm. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Art and Lewis and these things are happening. So it would be kind of nice if it coincided with another art thing, so the art people are already there.
Yeah, I
In
mean,
my mind.
whatever the
Mhm.
first Saturday is in July would be the next one.
That's
And-
the art show at Peters.
Oh, is it?
The second,
First Saturday in July?
It's the first Saturday.
It's
in
always the first.
July.
All right. I think the first Saturday in July is a great target date.
yeah, because people will be already down there.
And there'll be
Yeah,
people
there'll
interested
be-
in the arts that'll be in town. We just have to
wonder-
pick a time. And your opening is four,
Our
6,
openings are 5 until 6:30 at the moment.
6:30.
So we could do, what time does the art show end? 4? 3? Okay.
So we could do 4 o'clock on that Saturday.
What about doing 3 o'clock, 3 to 5? That's
You're
long.
gonna stay there for 2 hours?
Sun for 2 hours.
I'm just trying to get people, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
just
it's
trying to
July
really work
2nd.
here.
Maybe 4 to
I
5.
think that's.
We can
When
try
did-
4 to 5.
First Saturday.
Or we could do
3:30.
3:30 to 4:30, 3:30, because that gives them some time to get there. 3:30 to,
Yeah. but I'm just
You'd rather go
saying,
4?
you know, it
No,
might be
4
the
to 5.
following weekend.
Your
4
call.
to 5,
Organize
5
it
to
so
5
it
to
didn't
5,
clash
5 to
with-
6:30, so then it's part of this,
Right.
like you could do this, then do
We can go.
4 to 5.
and then do dinner.
So
after.
to-
It might be the
And we
previous
need to
one.
have
Right.
a promote this.
Right.
Yes.
St. Peter's and we need to get a hold of whoever's doing.
So Tony, will you put this on your publicity for your opening?
Will I what, sorry?
Will you put this, you're gonna do publicity for your opening. Will you put Art in the Park for the on your publicity for the opening when you do opening in July?
Well, let me double check with everybody else. I'm not going to make a decision on that now.
Okay,
We should be able to get it into the Cape Gazette
Definitely.
calendar.
Well, you can do a,
Yeah.
they do great.
we're gonna talk about finances.
Yeah, I mean, at the very.
But we don't need any money to go put it in.
Well, I mean, I don't even know
Okay.
I don't even know what's being planned by PAC at the moment. So
Right.
when I know what the details are, I'll be able to tell you whether I can add it to whatever I'm putting in the newspaper.
Okay, so we're, well,
we can do it
so what we
based
do
on-
know is that we're gonna take on the first Saturday in July.
Okay, that's.
Which
July
is-
2nd.
It's got a
The
date,
second.
the 2nd. We're gonna do, we're gonna have docents in place at our 3 sites, promoting, and we can promote the art walk that has also all of the items from Art and Bloom on it. And we promote that, and we promote the art walk, and then we'll say we'll have docents at between 4 and 5. And
Is there a way, like, do you have something at your gallery that shows them the, like, mural that way? Because we could kind of,
the Chamber of Commerce has a promotes the site, the web, the map too. but we should be with them.
I was trying to have them hit like fun things.
Right.
Somebody, can you ask St. Peter's? Are you, when you do the St. Peter's, can we just put a sign in your garden? No, no, seriously. At St. Peter's, they do the art fair. Can you talk to somebody at the art fair about after the art fair is over, if you want to go see art, trying to promote the idea that
We
people
might
can.
have to have some kind of a postcard or something like that.
Yeah,
Remember
I
the
can make one
postcard
of
we did
those.
before?
Right,
We might have to have something like,
but the first question would be, can you get St. Peter's to help support us?
yeah, we need to
I could put
do
a
that.
little map on
Need to
the
develop
postcard.
that connection.
I think the idea of having something to hand out. If there's an information booth at the,
Yeah, have like the
at
art
the
board.
art show.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Great,
Say,
all
I'll
right.
send it to you for
spotlight
approval.
talk For these sculptures at 4:00.
Yeah.
So we can have stuff there and we can have stuff at the Chamber of Commerce and,
If we could
And-
do like a little rack card or something, that would be.
A what?
I was thinking like a
Like the
big
thing-
Like we
postcard
did
with a
for
map on it.
the
Like we did for
other
the-
thing,
The
the,
meeting
for the art
for
talk, the lecture.
Yeah, like a little rack card showing the location of the time that we could give to people. I
Right.
think the information booth.
Yeah, we can put the map on one side.
Anything that is printed material, I'm happy to have in the gallery.
Right.
Okay,
I'd like to also suggest, once you put your your card together, if you'd make a copy of that available to Janet, she, I think, can make it available, posted to the city website and
Right.
promote it there.
okay.
and
Might
probably
be
other
very helpful.
galleries too, like
So-
the one on Third Street.
Oh,
All right, so who's
Mhm.
gonna make the card?
I'm
I
gonna make the
think
card.
Are you
Heidi,
gonna make the card? Thank you.
Yeah,
Heidi
Yeah.
does it again.
I got that. I got that one. I can do that one.
and
Uh,
is this, may I, for clarification, excuse me for interrupting here.
No, you're ex
Really jumping
officio.
in
That
here.
means,
Do I understand that this event on the 2nd of July is going to be your opening? Is that the idea, that this is your big promotion? So-
I wouldn't call it
kinda
an
like it.
opening so much as just,
Well, that's
it's,
what
it-
most art people call it, right?
I kind of like the idea of an opening.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I mean,
Chris?
Or
Art wall?
inauguration
And that's-
or.
An event. I mean.
yeah, it's promoted as an
So-
event. right?
yeah, it'll be as,
We have three pieces
Yeah,
Yeah,
of art.
Free art.
It's significant, so.
It's like the big art day.
It's a
Right.
it's a celebration of art in the park.
Absolutely.
I think the artists who provided the work would definitely like to have it called an opening or something
Yeah,
very similar.
yes, exactly.
So
Well, I
that they
think that-
can actually promote it on their website.
Okay.
And I'm going to make one more comment and then I'll be thrown off this as an exhibition. Is, I think you called it Art in the Park. Is that what you called the
Mhm.
event? And I was going to suggest that you make that a plural parks because
Okay.
you in fact have 2 parks involved here.
Okay.
Somebody can come up with
Arts in the park.
something else that's
No, that's good.
clever.
And then,
I've
so
heard that many times.
we don't need to be original. We just have to make them understand it. It's, they're all small words. It should be easy. I think that what I want to do is like, make sure everybody knows that there's going to be docents there to help interpretation.
Absolutely.
And that should be on the card, but
I will, yeah, and I'll make some of it in postcard size to put in like different places. I mean,
Right.
poster. I mean,
and I'll give you the map for one side. So we'll have to. All right.
Are there QR codes at the sites already installed now? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, good. I thought,
Miracle.
yeah, I thought I remember
Small
that being
miracle.
part of the plan. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
So we've got the map and the art, and then docents. How should we say that? Like find out about the work or learn about the pieces in the park or learn about the artwork?
Docents on site just
Yeah.
to help.
Not everybody knows what docents are.
All right.
Yeah.
It's like old people on site.
Interpreter.
You know,
Spotlight
Docents
talks,
on site.
Find out about.
Learn about. the
discussion leader on site.
artwork. Oh, I like discussion leader.
But it's not really a discussion.
Well, it could be.
Could be.
It should be,
We want
really.
it to be a
It should be a
discussion.
discussion. That'd be winning in life.
Okay.
Discussion leader on site. Learn about the.
Nice.
All right. That's great. we'll authorize that. All right, so I'm going to go on to the,
I have one more question. for
Please.
you. Excuse me.
please,
Sorry.
we might end up living to regret this. Tim,
Is Letha's piece over in Knopf, does it have a name?
Yeah,
yes,
And what is it called?
I forget.
Leaves and lava.
Leaves and lava.
Leaves.
if you go to lewispublicarts.org website, its picture is there and the description and its name.
And it's Leaves and Lava?
Leaves and lava.
Thank you.
I'm not sure that's the name. That's what I wrote one time, but I don't think that
And it
was.
wasn't on the
should know.
agenda, so I was,
Hey,
that's
Siri,
my
open
crib note there.
lewispublicarts.com.
Yeah. Thank
Oh,
you.
here. Oh, no, I can't. actually.
I don't see an app called lewispublicarts.com.
All right,
We'll go with Leaves and Lava.
somebody can look
okay?
that up. It's no, we want to have it correct,
Yeah.
and it is correct on our website.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I got in trouble for something else today. So Docent Training Day publicity results. Guys, we hit 5,000 something last month we're having a heyday in the public media world. I
All
don't know.
press is good press. Mhm.
I think it starts with the videos. When you started changing the videos, people started,
Oh, for
the Instagram videos,
yeah,
lead them to the site and
videos,
everything
it's all
else.
videos.
But
So annoying.
it has been, it's been really nice. I sent you all the one letter that we received from the
Yes.
visitor talking about how I can't wait to come back to see the next one.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Those are really nice. I wrote the guy back, but I said, I'm going to tell him about this celebration of art.
Have
in
you
the
had
parks.
any other comments from the public who come in? Do you collect those in any way?
I do. We don't get, you get a lot of attaboys. You don't get any, you get an awful lot of comments. So this is really great. And then, but not like the one that was like a really thought out letter. We don't have a lot of, and then the
We
only,
got one at Vivian's that was,
Yeah.
I can't believe this horrible sculpture. We don't know why you put this here.
oh, good.
know,
I
I
missed that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was when Paul was picking up the ladder after the install and the artist is standing there and you're like, awesome, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, and this person had a golden retriever. I thought it was very not, it just
Didn't
didn't
work.
make sense, but
No,
yeah, so some people hate it and some
Yeah.
people love it. That's how it's
I
gonna
had
go.
one that I think was actually meant to be an insult that said, this looks like a kindergarten art, and I happen to love kindergarten art. I think it's very joyful, so I was like, well, thank you.
Well, when I
I
go
think
there,
that's the
I
way
take
it
out my
is.
phone and if I see somebody talking there, I'll basically go and ask them 2 questions and of the, maybe it's my approach, but everyone's been really quite positive and talking about how they, how it's fun and they enjoy the difference from last year. But I haven't had a bad comment, but if you don't have when you're trying to film these things, they either they're too long or too short. So, but I keep doing it. So if you're there and you see somebody, just turn on your video and make some news. Okay.
You can always send them to me and I'll post them on. the thing.
They what?
On the website.
Post them on the Instagram.
Yeah. And if you don't know how to do it, send them to Heidi, because she does a good job on that. So I wanted to talk to you if we could go out of order here for a second. I don't have a new map. The budget financial stuff. I have the good news and the bad news on that.
Great.
Well, the good news is we finally got it. I can't, I'm not sure that, as I'm trying to read this is a ledger that is supposed to show, to me, a ledger is income and outflow, right?
It can
Well,
be.
yeah.
That's what it should be. This is the city ledger.
There's no income coming in except the budget unless you've done some fundraising and we would put that in there, but the budget is finalized in March and that's the income.
All right, so the
Now-
income, okay, so what I'm looking for is the donations that have been going in, and none of them are showing in our accounts from last year.
There
Or this
hasn't
year?
been any. Ellen Moraine said there was like, I think there's, and don't quote me, but $1,000, but she said nothing's come in recently.
No, but I'm
In
going
this
back,
calendar year, what you say.
I'm going back to the previous year, and I know that donation,
That's a different account, so it's not going to show up on that. Because that's the city budget, so.
oh, so this isn't a ledger, this is just a budget sheet.
Right.
Okay,
It's
okay.
an expenditure.
Well, okay, what I was wondering is, so a ledger shows income to our account and stuff that goes out. So the ledger would show if there was income that came in, and we don't have, and we're not showing any. I just want to make sure that when we do get donations, that it's actually being credited to us. And
It doesn't work that way in this system. So I'd have to go back and we'd have to look into the account for donations for this particular committee and run that.
So technically, it's a donation to the city that's earmarked for our committee.
Right.
That's what you're saying.
Right.
so when we're looking at our overall budget, where we have money from the city and we accept donations, we need to have both sides of that equation. And now there may be, I was looking at one donation that I knew about, and that was in March. So that was in March of 2021. So that wouldn't have shown up in 21. But I kind of want to know, we do have some people that donated money, and I kind of never saw if we got credit for it, even though it's going back a year or two. Maybe we could just look into that and see where that.
Do you know what year it was by any chance or
Well,
around?
Before the pandemic.
I mean,
From doing something online.
I mean,
but Anne Marie could never find it.
this is totaling thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and you all
You know.
should be acknowleding receipt.
Yeah, and we don't-
thanking
right.
these people, right.
And we don't have any record of it coming in,
Okay.
so.
Okay, but do you all have any idea of how much has been contributed?
Less lately, because we really haven't asked, because we don't know what we need.
Well,
Because what you have, I think, in front of you is what the city council has allocated. Is that
right, this is
correct?
just a budget.
Right, that's your
Yeah,
budget for
and
the city.
yeah, so,
Right.
what I'd asked for was the ledger, which would have been different.
Oh, okay. All right, well, we
So
can,
what do we have for this year?
Okay, well, the budget this year, and to back you up, Tim, on this, is that we had a plan from going back to last December that we were going to use, because our fiscal year is the 1st of April, right? Do you guys change 1st of April? So we had money going in. We knew we had a big year this year, and we had budgeted that $3,000 from last year's budget was going to go out in March to be against some of the stuff that we had contracted for this year. So it's as a prepaid or a deposit or something. We actually are supposed to write the checks as soon as we sign the contracts. The contracts were signed in March, but the checks did not go out in March.
And
So,
I think that was explained why.
okay, I'm just explaining to Tim. Okay. I think that,
Well, I want the whole story explained, the whole explanation.
okay. Well, so in our budgeting process, we had a $3,000 that did not go out like as we had planned in the last year. So we're going to be $3,000 over next year, because now our budget was right, and our planning would not have taken us over the budget for this $3,000. But but that's why you'll see last year that we were we have $3,000 we did not spend last year, which I thought we had spent. And it's going to put us, at the end of the year, this year, we're in pretty good shape, but I also wanted to find out about any donations. I heard of one, I didn't see it, so I called the guy and he goes, oh, well, actually, I didn't really write that check. So, but yeah, you don't know until you know.
Right, right. The
But,
check's in the mail, so to speak.
So what you're saying is we had $3,000 that we
Right, Tony?
lost with last year. And then this year we have how much for this year going forward?
Well, our budget for the year is $12,000.
Okay.
So it's not.
And
it's
we
not
have-
lost,
You
it's
do
carried
understand.
Oh,
over.
it is carried over.
It's
It's
not.
not.
Oh,
It's
that's what I
not.
thought.
It's
So the
zeroed out.
$3,000 is gone.
Correct.
And so we have $12,000 this year.
So we gave back $3,000 in March, and then at this point, we still have $13,000 to spend now, going over what's been spent. I haven't done that.
Okay.
But our whole budget for all of the projects was $15,000, I think, because we were using some of last year's money.
I
So
think
we
it
need
would
to
be helpful,
fundraise.
Cliff, if we all knew exactly what came in and exactly what was going out for what reason.
Yeah, it is. And we've been trying to get this. This has been on the agenda for 3 months to try and get this. And
Maybe we
I
need
called
to-
Leanne and
I mean, it ought to be a standard part of the agenda.
Do you all not have a treasurer? You don't have that functionality, do you?
No,
Okay.
But maybe we should start running it by our meetings as well, so we can be clear about what we're spending.
Right.
Because
Well-
I bought signage and
true.
I'm just spending money over here left and right, so.
No, I mean, we've got the individual,
Expensive.
we have the individual expenditures here. And there's a lot of stuff that gets not expensed that, people spend money on too. And, but I think that at this point, we've never had any problem hitting our budget. We've always turned money back in. So,
But it looks like we need to fundraise for about $2,000 to $3,000.
I think you're right.
Okay, that's what I need to know. $2,000 to $3,000 we need to find.
And,
I agree that part of the agenda every month, we should have a report of that. where we are.
well, you guys remember, we've been asking for this for months. Thank you.
Just so we all know.
Well, how are we gonna do that, though? Are we gonna, what we spent that month we do, or what's
There's
our,
nothing new to report.
Yeah, we have right now, we have expenditures up to because it's a budget. Up to 513.22. So we have the expenditures for this year. We spent $9,400 this year.
I mean, for instance, Cliff, I don't know what money has been paid to the artist whose work is currently in the parks.
Right, we spent $9,400 for this artists this year,
And where did that money come from?
our budget.
But I thought that the city allocation to PAC was not to be used for either purchasing or.
Well, it was, yeah, I think that all I could do is tell you that that's how much if we pay for transportation, that doesn't count.
Okay.
So I mean, the individual artists will receive, I think maybe a total of $4,000 for all of the art from everybody. And that may be what our target is, but at this point, I think we're pretty good with the BART is all paid for except for what two of them get money on the back end. Do you remember? You don't remember that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the whole conversation.
Okay, two of the artists will get we don't pay them their last payment until they take the art
deinstall.
away.
I think they're all that way. They all get the last payment on the deinstall.
So that could be a total of $3,000 that the city has to pay. So the other things is we have to pay for, Jackie's time, and we pay for stuff. The way it's split out in the budget is kind of more general than specific, but we can go over that another time if you want. So anyway, that's where we are. So we're making progress on getting this budget down, but hopefully we will not let you down. We never have. Okay, what's next?
I have one more thing to add to the whole exhibition installing and all of that. I think we could be like a touch more professional, and especially if we're thinking like at some point we'll have, a possible, be going into an installation into a sculpture garden or whatever. I think that we could have somebody come down if we had extra money at some point and inform someone how to put up sculpture or a few little things that would help us immensely. And it's been said to me by artists and other people in the area. And also just that we're not telling our artists about like weird stuff going on with the city or with the town or with the art. Like, it's just unprofessional. This is my 2 cents on what I saw and heard at the 3 installations. I feel like they should feel like royalty and like they're having a great time and they don't have to listen to our craziness. So I know it happens because we're in the home and stuff. And I think it's good that they feel totally welcomed, but I also think it's like,
Not that welcome.
not that welcome. But I do think it's like, it's one of those things that's like when I go visit an art, teach at a college or go visit a place, it's like nice to feel like, someone's not yelling in the park and this isn't happening over there. So I think we could be a touch more professional. That's just my 2 cents on our installations. So,
No, that makes sense.
I like that.
Very nice.
That's a nice note.
and yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. I think we can level up.
We can level up.
Yeah.
I like that. We can level up. All right. Okay. The other thing we were talking about was talking about our last meeting, the report on the last time we were all together in this room.
That's so fun.
And I think that for a lot of people, that was pretty traumatic. And it was kind of hard to even think with all the histrionics. And we need to,
I have a question about that.
can I finish first? I think that I wanted to try to, I think I was very, very proud of everybody on this committee and really proud of everybody, how they responded to the pressure that was involved. I think that we made the city proud in the sense that I've gotten a lot of comments from people in the government and people outside the government for doing what we're supposed to be doing. I don't know what kind of feedback you have received personally. Mine's been mixed. I wanted to make sure that everybody had an understanding of, how we kind of got there and where we can go forward from. And so I just thought I'd turn it over and let you all talk about what you want to talk about first.
I would just like to say, I think one of the biggest problems and the biggest confusions with the whole meeting is a lot of people thought our public art committee meeting was a public hearing, and it was not. The fact that we allowed somebody to do a presentation was one thing, but it was not a public hearing where we were soliciting comments from the audience. That's not what our committee meeting was for. Should we have chosen to do a public hearing after or before, that's another issue. But that meeting was not, I repeat, a public hearing. It was a public meeting. And there is a difference, and I'm not probably the best one to define that, but I don't know that we need to, but there's a big difference between a public meeting and a public hearing. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're
That's correct.
absolutely right. And public hearings allow the public to come up to the microphone, say their piece, and then sit down and the next person. And this is a business meeting.
And we decide what our
It's-
agenda is.
And it's.
People on the outside don't decide, hey, I'm going to be on your agenda for that meeting. That's not the way it works. We control the agenda of our meeting, not the public. And
But we
that's
were
why
not-
the city council appointed this group.
But we were not able to control our agenda last time.
Correct.
And that was problematic because we came in and we didn't get to do what we needed to do.
Well,
Correct.
I
Mhm.
think maybe if there had, at the outset, maybe this is where the wheels fell off the wagon, if there'd been more clarity for the audience saying, this is not a public hearing. It is our public art meeting. We have invited you to speak for 10 minutes. But I think there was, I also think there was a thought on one side that they were pitching us the idea of the sculpture itself, which is one thing. We like the sculpture. That's not what it
No
was.
one
But I think,
disliked it.
but what the role of the committee needs to be as the last line of defense, maybe not the last line, but the line of defense for the city is whether it can be safely installed where they were proposing to install it. And since we didn't have any other options, there was no, well, here's a backup location or, give us some other, we had no room to move really. And, the stress was very high. I mean, just the level of emotion in the room was very difficult, but I think a lot of that came from a lack of understanding that what we were here to do, and it wasn't personal. It wasn't about the aesthetics. It was about the safety of the location itself. And I think that's what got lost in the shuffle.
Carol?
So I'm confused. If we invite somebody to present an idea to this committee and the committee discusses it and raises certain questions while the presenter is still in the room, is it only fair that the presenter gets the opportunity to answer to whatever those questions may be?
In a public hearing, yes, I would say.
Well, and also those questions were asked before the meeting in an
Right.
email and we didn't get any answer. So I
Right.
think that
So-
could have also
Yeah.
been more of a dialogue back and forth where we could have had some answers
so
coming into the meeting.
In case there was any confusion, I have just 4 points of a timeline, which I think are very important that we all understand and everybody in the town should understand it. And one is that we started this discussion actually in February 23rd. We had a meeting and we talked about what would be discussed if we were going to on an application. In that meeting, Warren, Tony, Ed all spoke about the need to answer these questions, which had been written by the previous. So nobody got a bunch of new questions. I think that when they said they were going, Janet asked, and I think wisely, that they turn in their application early so it could be reviewed before we went to a meeting in case it was missing something. We did that review and we wrote to and sent this email to Sue and Ed Bigmonsky and Tony and Warren. And it says you did a great job on all these questions, but there is no point in having a hearing until we can be sure we can say yes. And we cannot do conditional approvals. So 2 weeks before the meeting in writing, they were told we cannot do conditional approvals and you're incomplete. And we went in to explain everything, not everything, but the major problems of looking at a complete application. So
that was another issue that
and then knowing, kind of feeling what was like about to unfold before the meeting, I talked to Tony and said, Tony, this is to review the application. And we're going to give you 10 minutes beforehand, but it's a working meeting and there's not going to be any audience participation. And Tony was
No, you
told,
just asked me to,
well,
whether
let me
the
finish, Tony.
presenter
Let me
could-
finish, Tony. Let me finish, Tony.
well, let me answer.
No, I'll let me finish and then you can answer. So I told Tony that, and I told him, please tell Ed. And he said, well, I'll tell Ed, but Ed's going to do what Ed wants to do.
Well, I mean, that's another,
But
to me,
the,
that's another issue and another point.
but the point is, they were told verbally before the meeting, almost a week before the meeting, to make sure that we didn't have what happened.
It was a pressure situation.
And so, so they were informed that this isn't, we didn't make this up on the day of the meeting. They were informed beforehand. And then I think that you're right, that the people that came here were not informed of this. They did not come expecting the meeting that we were trying to hold. And therefore, we're extremely frustrated by the fact that we were discussing this application, which, as Tony, is our agenda, which we asked them not to put on an agenda. And so that, obviously, I can understand everybody being upset. But what I don't understand is why they came here not knowing that we couldn't pass it and not knowing that they weren't going to speak. That's what I don't understand.
Well, and if I could have thought clearly, I wish we had just said, we're not going to discuss this. We can't approve it like it is, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, maybe that's what we should have done.
That's what we
And
should
the whole
have done.
point,
That was
talk-
unbelievable.
the whole point about talking about this is so that we don't have these kinds of issues in the future. I mean, we can't change the past,
No.
but we need to look forward. And it's important, I think, to bring out some of these things as to how things transpired and go forward.
No, I mean,
In
just-
my mind, everybody here was into public art. And they
Yeah,
wanted public
Mhm.
art, and not one person on this committee said that they disliked or didn't want that sculpture.
but nobody in the room learned any more about public art
No.
in that day than they already came knowing. So there was no helpful information in that.
In my mind, it's all about placemaking.
Mhm.
And to me, and I've said this before, placemaking with public art is even more important than choosing a frame for a painting. Because even if you choose a bad frame for a painting and stick it in the basement, you can still see the painting. But if you choose a bad location or a poor location for a piece of public art, you don't see it. If you don't have the backdrop
Or you have to see it for the rest of your life.
and it distracts you from seeing other things.
Yeah. Mhm.
So to me, it's all about placemaking. And if everybody that was in this whole room is all about public art, then they should want to find the best place and the most opportune place to view this public art, whether it needs to be a place where you need to be far and close up,
Yeah.
whether it needs a backdrop, all of that depends on the individual sculpture. And to me, that's what the whole issue boils down to. I mean, we need to worry about
Safety.
the base and all that other kind of stuff. But I mean, to me, that's the whole.
Well, and Tony, is there any conversation about this, or there's only one place they can go?
No, there is conversation about it,
So-
and I have a suggestion to make.
I
Well,
mean,
and
there was a
Tony, I have
couple
to
other.
say that I feel like I needed to hear from you
Mhm.
really much more, because I came to this meeting and I felt very uncomfortable coming into it. I was like, something's brewing. I don't know what it is. I don't know why this is happening. And you're our liaison, so I wish that I had been able to talk to you about, because I didn't know there was another option, or if there are any options, or if it's a conversation, or if this is just where we want it, and we're not willing to talk.
Well, isn't this the second or third location that was chosen?
Can I
Okay, but-
actually have the floor for a minute?
Yes.
Thank you. First of all, in answer to what you were saying, Cliff, yes, you raised certain questions in an email, certain additional questions in an email that were not part of the policy document. And these were answered in an email as best could be done at the time. So that's the first point. As far as placement is concerned, yes, I think it was a mistake to say this is exactly where we want it. But the reason behind that was that we consulted with the park commissioner, and that was the site that he said that he would support. So it was actually not the site that we had in mind. But we went with it because we thought Rodney's support for that site was important. On reflection, I believe that there are other places in the Canal Front Park that could be considered. And I would respectfully suggest that we go about finding alternative places in the park that for consideration with Rodney.
That's good to know. I mean, it'd be nice to be able to move forward. And I wanted to say that looking at this whole fiasco, I think it's about communication. I mean, we've tried very, very hard to communicate, and that communication has to go out to everybody and have everybody in the room. We could have done better, I think, if we put the details of what we're doing on the agenda, whoever wrote the agenda item, that could have made it a lot more clear for people what we were going to be doing. We could have attached the application to the agenda. That would have made it more clear. But we also need to somehow be able to communicate to the Art and Bloom people, and we're trying to do that through you, Tony. And those guys came in misinformed, and I don't know. I think that caused a lot of the, the higher end of the stress of the meeting, as people just were not expecting it, and they had a terrible reaction. I also want to say that what we do here, the way forward is there's several openings that are being discussed. People are talking to other people, and we have had to discuss. I've sat with Warren, and you've sat with Carol, and people are there is a discussion to try and move this forward, but the only way we move this forward is through the document. We cannot go around it. And this document, as difficult and as expensive it is, it's very expensive to do this, to do what you're going to try to do. And there's not going to be a way around it. And if this requires engineering studies and this requires design studies, it's not going to be just pushed aside. And if we have an issue like who's going to pay for the maintenance, we're not going to negotiate that later. We have to do this all at the same time, all at the front. And I think sometimes it's scary going forward when you've never done something before, and I feel like there's a I get that, but it's not impossible. I have here, this is for the little piece in the park that we just put in. So these are design drawings for a piece of Letha's. These are the load construction drawings. Here's the wind load. Here's the engineering. Here's the name of the piece of steel, the weight, the size screw. I mean, it's not that big a deal. It's just going to cost a few bucks. But this is for some as small as Letha's piece, and it's temporary. But this document is something that there's no way around. And the questions that we asked really were all based on answering questions in this document, which we are required to find out about. And it seems like all we're trying to do is read this and go by the rules. And the way forward is going to involve going through these rules. And I think that the more open you can be to that, we can help you, point you in directions to try and help find an answer to these questions. There are resources. but we don't have the money for it. And it's going to be a long process. And the more open that Art and Bloom is with where it could go, the better it's going to be. I personally feel that the sculpture is maybe even underappreciated by Art and Bloom, because if you look at the project, if you look at all the artists' work in your proposal, all of it is straight abstract stone cuttings, openings, closings, movement with your eye. I think that when you look at the picture in your proposal and it's held up against the sky and you can see these bands of light, it's pretty spectacular. But this piece of art, to be enjoyed that way, deserves to be seen from far away and up close. It deserves to be able to walk around it. It deserves to be able to be approached and interacted at many different levels. And I feel like to me, if I'm trying to find the best place of the art, it certainly wouldn't be tucked in a corner. And so if Art and Bloom loves this sculpture, they should come and be as open as they can so we can get the sculpture somewhere in Lewis. But it's still going to have to go through this, and there's no way around it.
There's only one comment I would make, and that is that the funding for this piece of sculpture will come from donors. And I do not think it is a right to use donor money to do all the engineering and any other thing that we may have to do, until we know that it could be placed in the park if all that turns out to be correct.
Well,
In other words, I think it needs to be approved with the contingency that the engineering study will be done, and if that fails, then the project fails. But we can't do it and spend private money.
actually,
ahead of
Tony,
time.
you can go out and fundraise. They did it for the Canal Front Park.
I
They
don't-
raised what, $50,000, $150,000 just to do the plans to see if it would work. And they did the subscription service and they raised the money. So I know maybe, this is this is such a leap from what has been going on in this town. Maybe it's a bridge too far. Maybe it's too expensive. Maybe you want to do something in the middle and work up to it. But this is a huge project, and we're not going to we can't do it on a wish and a hope. And you've set a tremendous burden on yourselves to get this project done. And I applaud you. But our job is to make sure it's safe and it's right, and the city doesn't get entanglements down the road. And like that engineering, we went and asked the city engineer, and he says you can't put it in that park without a soil engineer sample. So you can't tell your
That's fine.
fundraiser.
I've spoken to the city. Well, I haven't. I've emailed the city engineer as well.
Good.
But I still maintain that provisional approval for it to go into the Canal Front Park could be given, and then those studies conducted afterwards. And if those studies result in it not being able to go in the park, that's an end to it.
Well,
I would disagree with that. I think when you do conditional approvals for anything, there's one or two loose ends that are not really important or germane to the whole issue. But if you're talking about a foundation or whatever, that's major. And I, as a committee member, would never approve a sculpture of this size and magnitude on a conditional basis, because too many things get approved on a conditional basis in the city, and then nobody follows up on those conditions. And I would warn this group to not do conditional approvals unless there was some small little detail. But that's up to you all. That's my opinion.
Well, and the only place that Art and Bloom wants is in the park.
so if we,
That's the way the application.
We would like to see it in the park.
So
We
if the,
believe the design is such that it needs to be near the water, and it will have an economic impact
speak to that.
on the city if it is close to where the majority of the businesses are.
Tony, can I just say something to that? Because I talked to Rick Rothrock just on the phone a couple weeks ago, talked to him for a good long time, but because we were talking about Cape Spirit, obviously. And one of the things he said, which was interesting to me, his idea of Cape Spirit is the Cape. It's not necessarily the water, it is the Cape. It's the little fish hook. It's so he did not, that actually was not his idea for the, you know, the shape. And I know you've referred to it as sort of a nautical theme, but I don't think, well, from what Rick said, that's not so important to him. It's the Cape itself, not necessarily the maritime aspect of the Cape. So just, I don't know if he told you that, but that's what he said to me.
Maybe so. Again, I think if it was placed at the Cape, for instance, it would not even be in Lewis. It would be outside Lewis. And I don't think we could honestly go to the citizens of Lewis and ask them to donate money.
Well, that's not, Tony, that's not exactly for us to fix. I think if, I mean, I understand it's going to be hard raising money, but I feel like when you said it's going to have an economic impact, if this was such a significant place and it was from out of town and it became part of the sculpture, proposed sculpture garden, the economic impact would be 100-fold greater of people coming to town to actually see the sculpture garden, renting a hotel room, having a meal, than walking by casually when they're already in the park. It would be 1,000 times greater. So, I mean, so
Those are all things that.
Well, if you're talking about a sculpture garden in the Great Marsh Park, I mean, that's some way out of town for people to walk from there into town. Do that.
well. All right, then I see you.
I guess the first time I saw Cape Spirit, I thought, and I know you pursued this, the Delaware River Bay, and where Freeman Highway and Road to the Ferry intersect. For me, that's still Lewis. I can see this, if it was somewhere alone like that, becoming a symbol of Lewis, like they talk about the totem pole at Bethany Beach. I guess I'd like to see it without distractions, with the sky and the whatever as its background. And I just wonder if it's worth pursuing with Delaware River Bay Authority or whatever.
That was all, wasn't that already done? Wasn't there a
Yeah,
location
They said
at
that.
the ferry terminal that was
They-
originally
they-
chosen?
Not at the ferry terminal, at the
Excuse me, Cliff. Could I just ask Denise and Carol to
Speak
pull
up.
the microphone down?
Okay,
Thank you.
my thought was where Freeman Highway and the road to the ferry intersect. And you're near the trail, people coming from the ferry would see it.
From the bike
people-
trail.
People going to the ferry would see it. People coming from the beach into Lewis to grab a sandwich or whatever would see it. It's not that far from downtown. But I think it could have significant impact if it was somewhere like that all by itself. Now, that's just my 2 cents.
That's a good opinion.
But it's, and I don't know how much you can push Delaware River Bay Authority, but I just think it's a large piece. It deserves a significant space of its own.
A good point.
A good point, Tony.
The other, do have a question. When the email was sent to Lewis and Bloom, who was asked for input on that? Who wrote the response?
Which he,
The email about the
What they, about the application being
Yes.
not strong enough?
Yeah, I wasn't asked for any input.
Neither was I.
No. It was Janet and I did a quick review and we did 4 versions of that letter together. So Janet was,
Basically, the additional questions all came from you.
no, this wasn't additional questions at all. This was not, no.
No,
This was when we said this is the application needs to have, I mean,
yeah, but
I'll
then
give
you
you a
sent a
couple.
list of additional things that you would like answers to, and those came from you. They did not come from the whole committee.
No, I think that,
Well, we can't send emails that have the whole committee on them. and
Right,
yeah,
And respond.
so-
That's what's
no,
kind of
I have it
problematic.
here for you. I can give it to you, Tony.
I know, I don't understand it at
Um,
all, but I guess you have to follow it. So I try.
It's because if you're all responding, you have a quorum.
I know, I don't.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing while you're looking for that, this is slightly off subject. I got a
Speaking of
postcard in the
microphone.
mail about the Great Marsh Park Master Plan Workshop on Tuesday, June 7th, here from 4 to 7. And if we have any ideas about putting sculpture there,
Good
someone
point.
from the committee might want to attend that.
Well, Barry is the commissioner for Great
Oh,
Mark Park.
okay. All right.
So he will be
I
there,
was
the
gonna
tree
make
commissioner,
Announcement.
Right?
Yep.
Still your
but
thunder.
I don't
Yeah,
know
no.
that we should get into that here at this committee meeting.
No, no, I
No,
just-
but
So this,
Turn. Going back to the way that meeting was set up. I think it would have, yes, the guidelines were set up in the email that was passed back and forth. But obviously, there were people at that meeting who never saw that email.
exactly.
So I think it's very important to start out the meeting with clear rules and regulations and expectations about who's speaking, what the roles of those involved are. I also think it's unfortunate that it seems like the location is so dug in that it's like my way or the highway kind of thing. And I'm losing my voice again. To use an unpleasant word, I think that the chosen location is overly commercial. We have a whole paragraph of organizations, businesses, the Chamber of Commerce and everybody, but this is a piece of art. And I think it needs to be highlighted. Different people see different things in this. And I don't see the spirit thing reaching to heaven. I view it as a sailor's knot, which is very appropriate for this environment. But it seemed like there was no option for looking elsewhere than the place that had already been designated. So,
May I speak up here and just make a suggestion, please? If anything comes from your discussion this evening, I would like to see an expression of interest. And I would suggest that you also indicate a clear message that you are willing to work with the applicant in an unbiased way as if it possible, a partner. Okay, because both of you, each group has a commitment to art. And that is something you hold in common. And I'd like to see that spirit carry you all forward, if at all possible.
Yeah, we're
Thank
supposed
you
to
very
work
much.
together.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you.
Yes.
we don't have all the answers, that's for sure.
No one does. No one does.
so I think that at this point, there is nothing on the agenda there's nothing being proposed. We have, we'll be glad to set up a workshop if you want to do that. I mean, I have had discussions where actually just sites outside of Canal Front Park actually came up in discussion. I don't know how the Art and Bloom Committee communicates with itself. I know you're the chairman. What happened? You're the, I thought that Carol and you were in charge of Canal Spirit, of Cape Spirit.
We're managing the project. That's
Okay.
project management.
Right, so that would be, so anyway, I don't know how the communication works, but when we talk about our communication, it'd be great if everybody in the committee had the same communication opportunities that, that gets passed through. But I know, please extend, I mean, we can sit down and work, we can do a workshop. I think the workshop would start out understanding that, it's okay to ask an artist to give you drawings of this piece. I mean, and, if you're going to pay him all this money, he can invest a little of his time and energy to actually give you a drawing of what you're proposing and come up with that kind of thing. That's pretty normal to ask. I mean, I don't know, you don't have to shy away from it, but I believe that if moving forward, I would say the chances, I mean, we have to go over this document and have you actually, I mean, I would like to feel that you are working with us within this document and within the policy. If it's going to be, we're not going to do that, we're not going to do that, then you're wasting our time.
Okay.
Well, I don't think we have to decide on a way forward at this meeting, but I think everybody agrees here that we want to move forward and work together to bring this sculpture to Lewis.
And it
I think
sounds,
everybody's in agreement with that. I don't think we need a motion or anything.
Mm-mm.
But I don't think that we need to decide at this meeting exactly how we're going to move forward, but I
No,
think that's what we can talk.
we have a few little places going. Tim?
And I was going to just say, I think, Tony, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth at all, but I think I heard him say that he and his committee, Art and Bloom, are prepared to possibly revise the application, make some adjustments to it. Did I not hear that?
We're certainly willing to consider other locations. And at the moment, those we would like to be in the park.
I understand, but that changes the application that is presently in the hands of this committee because please wait, Kilma, because it's for a specific location within that park. So there is an expectation that you should have that his committee will be submitting some revised or revisions to that document. And I think that's a good place to start the conversation, the next conversation. Is that fair,
Sure.
Tony?
Guys,
Well, it is fair, but I see an impasse because we can't get around the idea that paying for all these studies needs to take place before consideration for it being within an area has to take place first. We believe that acknowledging that it could be in a particular area or areas can be agreed, and then the studies can take place afterwards when we can start to raise money. But we don't think it is fair to raise money from the citizens of Lewis, which is basically where the money will come from, when we don't even know that once we've raised that money and the engineering studies or whatever have taken place, it could still be turned down by
I
this
understand your
committee.
point, but I don't think it's appropriate at this point in time for you to condition your application. I think that should come after you've filed a corrected or revised application.
Well, that would simply mean changing, basically one paragraph, which
So-
would be where it's going to, we would like to see it.
But it's a meaningful change.
Yeah.
Tim,
It needs a new-
if I may,
Please.
that would put us in almost the exact same place we were before. We still don't have a drawing. We don't have any engineering. We need to know what they're putting. Now, if you want to have a meeting on whether if the committee just said that we don't think it's a good idea to put it in the park, period. Does that end it, Tony? You walk away?
I don't know.
These are all questions we can't answer.
We can't
Well, and
answer this
that's
stuff.
That's where location is the first
mean-
thing.
Right.
It's location. That's
Well,
what we need to
But
figure out.
then I think you need to have a drawing of what it looks like and what the base looks like. So you could see it in the context of its location. It still requires a drawing. And Tim, I understand where you're going here, but there are, if you look at the 4 points, we don't even, where we have to have who's going to be responsible for it. We need some real basic information that this is missing. The application is missing a lot
I
of
understand
important
its
stuff.
deficiencies. I'm just suggesting that you try to reset the clock and
And addre-
restart a dialogue with this commit, with the applicant. That's all I'm suggesting.
Okay,
I think we all agree
That's
to
all.
that.
yeah, we can do that. All right, anything else? My motion? Adjourn? Anybody
I
want-
move that we,
Oh, we have a question.
Oh, question.
That's the press.
Yes, I'm member of the press. Just for clarification, I do have two questions. Aaron Mushroom.
Aaron, can, no, thanks.
Yeah. Aaron Mushrush, Cape Gazette. Tony, if I'm correct in understanding, Art and Bloom would be willing to pay for the engineering studies if there is some type of approval that they would be able to put the sculpture where they would like to put the sculpture, private donors.
That is correct.
Members of the Public Art Commission, if the Art and Bloom is able to put the sculpture where they would like to put the sculpture and the engineering studies are approved, will they be able to put the sculpture where they would like to put the sculpture?
I don't know. I don't have enough information
placemaking
to
is
answer the
another whole
question.
issue in my
No,
mind.
it's not that, Aaron, it's not that cut and dry. I mean,
Engineering is one thing
geoengineering is another thing.
and.
We've got to have soils. I mean, the,
If their studies are passed and approved, will they be able to put their sculpture where they would like?
which studies?
If all of their studies are passed and approved?
Well, I can't tell you. I just can't answer.
Thank you.
Just say it. I don't think I have enough information to answer that question.
Thank you.
Can we?
I made a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We talked about her last time we had it. I don't think there's anything new from last night. Oh, you're right.
We talked to Amanda Brown.
Yeah, we talked to her on the phone too.
It's age. Too late.
Amanda Brown, pretty much.
We'll talk about it next month.
I got
Are we off?
it.
We had
Yeah,
a
we're
nine,
adjourned.
9:30.
Recover. our
Thank you.
safety.